So, so let us complete these pending transformations. So first is rank transformation. Okay, so rank transformation basically it is to generate the ranks. Okay, it is to generate sequential ranks. The same way how we have rank function in Oracle, right? The same way we can use this rank function. Okay, now let me use this rank transformation. Just drag and drop here. Just give an input, give an output to the target. So this rank transformation. So the properties that we have, one is incoming fields and field rules. So this is common for every transformation. Next is rank. So rank by on which column we have to generate the rank. On which column we have to generate the rank. So let's say I'm going to generate department wise. Okay, so rank order. So here rank by, so we can select only one port. We cannot select multiple ports here. Okay, so rank by, let's say salary. Okay, so rank order, top or bottom. So that means so which value, the maximum value should come on the top. The rank one should become on the maximum value, or rank one should come on the least value. So that is going to tell by this rank order, top or bottom we have to select. Okay, parameterize number of rows, not parameterized. So here the number of rows is basically for every group, how many number of rows that we will have to display, because we have a group by here. Okay, we have a group by here. If you don't use any group by field, so entire data set will be populated as a single group. If we specify any group by column, it is going to form the groups, and for every group it is going to give ranks 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, now number of rows, how many rows that we should give. Every group, how many rows that we wanted to give, because we wanted only top 10 values from the group, or top 20 values from the group, or top 50 values from the group. How many values that we wanted for every group. Let's say if you don't enable group by, then the entire data set will be a single group. If you enable group by on field certain field, so for every group, sorry, for every ID, for every value of this department ID, like group, separate groups will be formed. For every group, ranks will be generated. So number of rows for every group, how many number of rows that we will have to display. Let's say I'm giving 10,000. So ideally, right? So we will in real time, like we will not get any specific requirement, or sometimes very rarely we'll be getting a specific requirement that from this group I just wanted only rank one value. I don't want any other ranks. How many number of rows for each group is required? I wanted only one value for every group. Okay, these are the group by fields based on the salary field. So like that, we will be getting a requirement. So as per the requirement, we will have to use the number of rows, but it is a mandatory field. We should specify. If at all we wanted all the data, so then we should give some big number. We should give some big number. So these are the properties of rank transformation. First, do we need to generate the ranks at the group level, or we wanted to consider the entire table data as a single data set? So that we have to decide based on the group by field. If you don't enable, or if you don't give any group by field, then it is going to be entire table data set will be a single group. If you enable any group by field, okay, if you give any group by field, then it is going to be groups will be formed as per the group by columns that we set. This is that. SQL developer. Okay, so I'll show this one how the ranks are going to get generated. Okay, so now this rank field, let me connect to the field mapping. This rank index field will be by default, this rank index field will be generated. So this from the rank index field only, where we'll be getting the sequence numbers. Okay, so I'm just getting the sequence number to the employee ID field. Let me save that. Being saved successfully. And let me see the target or the target table. So employees underscore target, I have enabled truncate table. So every time the data will be truncated and reload. Let's start from employees underscore. So we have some data here. Okay, this table is created. And let me create one more table for source. Okay, so this is a source table, this is the target table. Now let me refresh the source. Just refreshing it on the fields, just to make sure, because I just created the tables, right? Because I have reinstalled the entire database. Okay. And even let me refresh the target also. Synchronize all the fields. So now in the field mapping, I just given these fields. For only employee fields, I just connected the rank index. Now let me save it. Let me run it. Failed to log buffer at 18001920. Because these transformations, right, they are so they will not directly give complete properties for free of cost. Majority of the transformations. So that's why So oh yeah, it is loaded now. See, because I have given the rank number of process 10,000, so that when it is trying to increase the buffer, so it could not able to because it's a local version, right? So they did not allocate that much buffer for that. Okay, but in real time also, sometimes when we are going to give very big number, this kind of an issue is going to come. So that's why when we use with the rank transformation, we should be very much careful about it. Let me check in the table. If you see for every group, rank is generated as 1, department ID 20, rank 1 2, department ID 30, rank 1 2 3 4 5 6. So like that ranks are going to be generated. And if you see, so I have selected top, so the maximum value will be coming on the top, least value will be coming on the bottom. Okay, if I change the rank order from top to bottom, so the least value will be coming on the top and the max value will be coming on the bottom. So as per the requirements, we will have to use these transformations. Now it is succeeded. Let me run now. Okay, if you see rank 30, right? So the least value is on the top because the rank 1 is getting generated for least value because the rank order we have selected, rank order I have selected as bottom. Okay, so depends upon the requirement, we will have to use it.
Bhaskar, for one thing, suppose you have created one mapping and you have said that its name is mapping one underscore one something. You have ran the job and everything. Suppose after that, if you modify that same mapping, so how you modify? I am not seeing any option there.
No, modify means like just go to click on the mapping. Just go to explore, click on the mapping. See, there is a version control. Okay, so in our local machine, we don't have any version control. In real-time laptops, real-time systems will be having a version control. Like will be having checkout and check-in. Okay, so when we so check in the code, we will not be able to do any changes. When we check, so when we have to do the changes, we will have to check out the code. Okay, so but here we don't have, so we can directly change it. If we click on these three dots, right?
Okay.
So here we don't have here in real-time system. If you open the transformations, you'll be having checkout, check-in, undo checkout options will be there. So that we will call it as versioning. Okay, so in real-time systems, right? So this versioning concept is basically whenever you do any mapping, first time when you create, so it will be in the checked out state, or first time it will not be uh, check into the repository. So now, once after we do the changes, then we have to click on these three dots. Here we'll be having an option to check in, checkout, or undo checkout like that. Okay, so those options are basically when you have completed all your changes. So then you will have to check in that, so that nobody is going to touch that code again. So if someone else wanted have to do any changes in the mapping, so they have to check out and do that. So like that we can see the version history. Okay, because sometimes, like, what is going to happen in real time, if you don't have version control. Okay, so we do some changes and we complete our development and testing, unit testing, everything. someone else will open that and will do, if they do some changes in that. Because of that, our code is breaking. But we will not be able to identify who did the changes. So that time the blame will be coming on us only, because we only did the development. So just to avoid such kind of a situations, we have this version control and we will have to follow the version control. So that we will get to know which version code is having what and who did the checkout and who did the changes. We can easily identify. So the latest version, who did the change, so that we can ask that person for what reason you did the changes, for what requirement you did the changes, so that we will also understand.
Okay.
So that we will call it as a version. So versioning is also very very important. So in real time, so when we do some changes here and we did not check in yet, but sometimes people says that no, we don't want, we have taken out this additional requirement, just to keep the mapping however it was. Then we have an option of undo checkout. When we do undo checkout, it will go to the mapping will changes will go to the previous version. Okay, these are the three options are there for versioning. Okay, yeah, it's a good question. So here, when we do the versioning, right, in the beside to the mapping, so where we'll be having check-in symbol, checkout symbol. There will be separate symbols will be there. By seeing that, we will get to know if nothing, it is plain empty, it is not versioned yet. Even the first version also we did not created it. So at least if you create one version, then we will get to know the symbol. We will get a symbol here, the same place what I am showing my cursor. So here we will be getting a symbol.
Got it.
So then the next transformation is SQL transformation. Okay, so this SQL transformation is basically, so whenever we wanted to execute any SQLs in middle of the mapping, then we are going to use this SQL transformation. So this SQL transformation is basically, so on which table that we will have to execute the, sorry, on which connection or on which database we wanted to execute the database. So we will have to select here. Now that we have to select the SQL type. Okay, so where we'll be having three types. Like, do we need to execute any procedure? Do we need to execute any function? Or do we need to execute any SQL query? Okay, so basically, as I mentioned, SQL transformation is to execute the SQL in middle of the mapping. How we have to execute it? Do we need to call any procedure? Do we need to call any function? Or do we have any explicit SQL query that we need to execute based on the input values are coming from the source? So then we will have to select accordingly. See, if at all we select any procedure, then we will have to select it. If at all we select any query, so then we will have to enter the query. So when we have to enter the query, we will be having two options. Either we can write a query here, or we can select a saved query. So we can write an SQL query and we can keep in the scripts folder, SQL query name SQL file .sql file, and we can keep in the script folder and we can call that saved query. If not, we can enter the query. So we have these two options, query type or save query. So in Power Center, we'll call it as script mode or query mode. Here it is a enter query or saved query. So now here we will have to write it, whatever the SQL that we wanted to. So that we will have to write it here. So here we can write an SQL query, and we can give an input to the input of these transformations. We can give input of this transformation so that these values record by record the SQL query will be executing on the database, and it will give us the data for these condition matches. And in the field mapping, so since we did not mention any SQL query here, we did not get the fields yet. So once we mention the query here, we will be getting the field mapping. So the fields will be coming, then we will have to map it. Basically, if this field mapping is only for stored function or stored procedure, because for no fields, as we have selected SQL type as query. So for query, we are explicitly giving it in the output fields. So by default, one error field will be created. Apart from that, so since I have selected SQL query mode, entered query mode, so whatever the output columns are coming from, output columns are coming from this SQL query. So those output fields will be coming here. Apart from that, by default, there will be one SQL error field will be generated. And so if at all there is any errors are going to come, so like when we execute the SQL queries, and if any error is going to come, so then that query, sorry, that error we can capture with this SQL error field. So this is the default port. When we use SQL transformation, this is the default port. So here we will be having certain options here. So do we need to do, if at all we are going to do any inserts, do we need to auto commit? So continue on the SQL error within the row. So do we need to continue it? Okay, how many output rows that we wanted from this SQL transformation? So max output rows. Okay, so here, so if at all we wanted more number of rows, like if at all we wanted all the number of rows, you have to select as 0. Okay, so this is the instruction that they are giving it to configure unlimited rows. Set max output rows count to 0. So when we set it to 0, so then we will be getting all the rows. If not, if we wanted specific rows, we have to select specific rows. How many rows that we wanted from this SQL transformation? Okay. So like this properties that we have here. So basically, but this is 99.9% we are not going to use this transformation in real time. Very rarely we are going to use it. Out of my 12 years of experience, I saw only one place where we have where people use this SQL transformation. Only one place. Okay, so for that also, but interviews people will be asking for almost 50-60% of interviews people will be asking. Okay, now here SQL query, what is the SQL type? Store procedure we wanted to execute or SQL query we wanted to execute. So accordingly, we will have to set it. If you select SQL query, then we'll have to select which one. Like it is a entered query or saved query. Saved query meaning we can write an SQL statement in a query and we can keep it in the SQL file that we can call it here. Let's say if I select saved query, so then where this query is available, now we will have to select it. Okay, so this saved query also. So if you go to new here, so somewhere this saved query option will be there. So we will have to select it here in the components. We have saved query. Enter an SQL query to use it in the source, either in the synchronization task or query in the SQL transformation. So now we can select, we can create the saved query, and in the saved query we have to select it and we have to write the query. What is the SQL query? From the SQL query, we can get the, when we click on this get columns, we are going to get all the columns and those SQL query that we can use it here. Let's say, let me create, let's say query 1, description just string, database type as Oracle, select name, number, address from employee table. Now click on this get columns, system database. So when we click on this, it will validate whether this query is in the executable format or not. If it is in the executable format, so it will give us the columns. Now let me save it. In the transformations, now I can select it. Go to the creating folder. Under the training folder, I just created one saved query. Make use of it. So now we will get to know what is the query is being executed here. Output fields, we are going to get this output fields because name, number, address is coming from the saved query, and the SQL error field will be coming up is the default port. If at all there is any error in the SQL transformation, that we will be getting through this SQL error port. These are the properties of SQL transformation. Okay. So next one is transaction control transformation. So basically, this transaction control transformation is going to be used. This transaction control transformation is going to be used to pass the commits through the mapping. Let's say whenever we do any DML operation, we have to pass a commit, right? Whenever we do either insert, update, or delete, whenever we do any DML operation, we have to pass a commit. Now, this integration service by default, we are going to, by default, it is end of the execution, it will pass a commit. End of the execution, it will pass a commit, so that the data in the database will be permanently stored. If at all we wanted to control the commits within the mapping, if at all we wanted to control the commits are rollbacks within the mapping, then we will have to use transaction control transformation. Okay, now we have in the transaction control transformation, if the field value changes or advanced or parameterized, this because how we will have to change the commits. If any field value changes on the name field, okay, because record by record, it is going to compare the previous row value and the current row value. If there is any difference here, so then we have to commit before or we have to commit continue transaction. So here we will be having commit before, commit after, rollback before, rollback after, continue transaction. So these are the 5 properties are available. In these 5 properties, so according to the requirement, we will have to use it. Okay, commit before or commit after. Commit before meaning before the row is going to insert to the target, the commit will be passed and then the row will be getting inserted. Commit after meaning once the current row is getting inserted, then commit will be passed. Okay, rollback before is basically before the record is getting inserted to the target, it will get rollback. So rollback after is basically before the record, as once after the record is inserted, then the rollback is going to happen. So this rollback before, rollback after, it's of no use. Commit before, commit after, so we will use it. So even that also commit after we are not going to, but commit before we'll use it, or continue transaction we are going to use. So continue transaction is basically continue transaction is basically just continue it. So it is not going to pass any commit. Commit before is to pass the commit before it is going to insert the record. Now I am giving a task for you that how do we generate files dynamically using transaction control transformation. Okay, so this is a task for you guys. So you try to understand and you use this transformation and generate the files and let me know. Okay, how do we, once again I'm telling the question, how do we generate the files dynamically using transaction control transformation in IICS? So this is the question. So everyone, when you are practicing it, so because I wanted to test you guys that are you able, if at all you don't know any transformation, because in future when you are working in real time, you will be getting some other transformations like hierarchy builders or some other transformations. So I wanted to know whether you are able to grab that. Okay, so that's why I'm just giving, I just explained these are the options that are there in the transaction control transformation. Now instead of we use field value changes, we can go with advanced and we can configure the if condition. If number not equal to, let's say number, some condition, we can give some if condition. So then 1 else 0. So like that we can give a condition. So we can give some condition without specifying. We can configure it by clicking on this advanced option. The field value changes, we can select the respective fields. So this is the only options that we have in the transaction control. But actual scenario that is going to come in the interview is how do we generate the files dynamically using transaction control transformation. Okay, so this is the task for you guys. So I wanted you guys to learn it and explain me how we are going to use this transaction control transformation. This one alone.
Okay.
I think these three transformations are enough for today, because yesterday one most of the people did not practice. Okay.